feels when a single hair moves on your head. And you taught me that.
Welcome to another instalment of myself, Eclecticist, right here on Rinse. Over the next 56 minutes, I'll be guiding you through a celebration of a groundbreaking album, Burial by Burial. An album born out of a very distinct lineage of UK pirate radio, sound system culture and the hardcore continuum, yet an album that reached far beyond those borders. To help me celebrate this album, I'll be joined by two voices who understand its impact from different angles. The producer, DJ and Keysound label boss Blackdown, an artist deeply embedded in the scene, an artist who knew Burial personally when most of us had no idea. And alongside that, the legendary music critic and author Simon Reynolds, who will help us map out the deep cultural and emotional weight of the album and set the scene both geographically and politically. This one's special. It was 20 years ago, just last week. Released on Hyperdub Records. It's myself, Eclecticist, right here on Rinse. We're celebrating 20 years since the release of groundbreaking, I'm going to call it groundbreaking album Burial, and I'm joined by Blackdown of Keysound Recordings.
Big up Blackdown.
In particular, I really wanted to talk to you about your interview with Burial around the time of the release of this album.
Yep.
I'm very, very aware that during this time, he wasn't a face to the majority of the public. He was this sort of enigmatic artist who had put out this thing that was sort of in the world of dubstep, but sort of on the margin.
He still is.
He still is, yeah. But before we get into that interview, can you sort of take me back to 2006? The time when sort of Forward is popping at Plastic People, dubstep is mutating, the atmosphere in London is shifting. Tell me about that moment in sort of musical time.
Most of those memories sort of centre around Forward at Plastic People and then increasingly DMZ at Third Base and Mass, both sort of South London and then East London clubs, all the way around. East London for Forward and South London for DMZ. 2006 is interesting because like at 2004, it really is just a very small scene of people. And by 2006, you're getting a little bit of momentum and thinking maybe this will work, this thing that we've been standing around in like very bass-heavy sound systems, often with very few people, thinking it's never going to work, from about 2001. Grime has already got a lot of success and overground stuff. In the clubs, particularly Forward, you know, you've got this connection between early roots of dubstep and then dubstep as it forms, and then grime being mixed in with it, and on more breaky stuff like the breakstep stuff and broken beat, and they're all kind of all being mixed together.
Meridian. Okay, forward. Go on then. Let me see your lighters in the air. Are you stupid in the face? Check the intensive snare, the hi-hat, treble and bass. Let me see your lighters in the air. Are you stupid in the face? Check the intensive snare, the hi-hat, treble and bass. I'm gonna keep spitting till genius kicks me off.
For me, the most important early dubstep artists, like very early, are Horsepower, sort of Artwork, and Ghost, like particularly LB on the production side. There is no convenient line where garage ends and dubstep starts, and lots of things that people now call dubstep, they're things that they say are not dubstep are actually very much part of a scene and a group of people and a continuity of producers and community and sounds. There is no convenient line, but very early stuff like The Club, well, it's produced as Ghost, but it's LB.
It all starts in the club. It all starts in the club.
Or the very first Temper records by Horsepower. I particularly love Gorgon Sound. That's the one that turned my head. That is generally dubby garage, dubby dark garage. Has all the elements of dubstep.
Cause when it comes to music, is we are the gaga. Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of artworks production as mentor and all those things are tough and techie and dark in a way that dubstep was monopolized, even though that he was as much part of the garage scene at that time. Artwork Tune is the masterwork, like bootleg of Sounds of the Future.
Cause when it comes to music, is we are the gaga.
Let's talk about Burial and your interaction with Burial in particular. I read that interview piece maybe about sort of 2011 when I was a sort of wide-eyed student, and obviously was reading it then sort of retrospectively, and I read it back again recently, and I sort of got really hung up on this. You started talking about margins, which I found really interesting, because from someone from the outside, someone who's not in the world of producers, you just assume it's hyperdub, it's Burial. He's probably friends with Marla and Loafer and hangs out with Plastician, and you just kind of think he's in the world. But it's really interesting to hear him suggest, I don't know any producers, I don't even use the software everyone else uses, like he's on the margin. Talk to me about, like, on that note, how you feel his music sort of fits in with this world and this lineage of dubstep and garage and etc.
The beginning of dubstep is basically darker garage, right? And you've got darker garage and breaky garage at the same time. So Zinc 138 Trek, and then Wookiees sort of competing with him with Storm, and you've got LB and Horsepower doing darker stuff. But they're all not a million miles away from the two-step beat palette. And then this sort of tradition of explosion of different stuff gets incubated up forward. Grime gets mixed in with it. Grime is itself evolving 8-bar. You can mix them all together. Like the beat structures, like there's a side pocket of people experimenting with broken beat. So I see Burial very much in tradition of just, he's in this space, or like head space more like, and he's just finding his own sound with a bunch of the common elements, doing it his own way, which a lot of people were doing. And then, like, you can see him referencing the rhythmic structures of LB and early dark garage records and garage records generally. but you could also seeing him adding completely different sensibilities in terms of textures and moods and like vocal manipulations and things that are like totally him that people weren't really doing. And then because of his production technique, and we can maybe talk about this in more detail, it ends up having a kind of distinct kind of feel to it. It is different from a lot of the stuff that was being made by that very, very tight-knit community of people. And I think exactly because he was not really regularly at Plastic People and later on or Mass, then I think he's it helps him develop his own sonics. Like most people at that time, were building to get to Hatch's set, or they're building to get a cut on a dub plate, the Youngsters set, or then later on Scream, or whoever you want to think of, Chef or Walsh or R.I.P. or whichever DJ you want to name. They were trying to get, including me, we're trying to make tunes to fit into those beat mixed bits and to be good on those systems. And I think I've never heard him talk about explicitly trying to do exactly that. I think he's trying to make his music.
So if you joined us late, it's the sounds of myself, Eclecticist, with you every Wednesday from midday here on Rinse. We're currently celebrating 20 years since the release of this wonderful album, Burial by Burial. You just heard Blackdown, who gave us some context about the music that was being put out in 2006. That exact sonic world that Burial would have been tapped into around the album's release. Underneath us right now, taken from that album, is Southern Comfort. And up next, you'll be hearing from my other guest, Simon Reynolds.
The first Burial album kind of reached a lot of people who don't really follow London pirate radio culture and weren't really going to raves, but just like were listening to it as a homeless thing, atmospheric record you could kind of sink into.
So myself and Simon, we caught up just last month over a Zoom call. As Simon is currently based in LA and has a forthcoming book about shoegaze, definitely check that one out. I wanted to speak to him because he's written extensively about Burial and about such themes as hauntology. Thank you for joining, Simon.
Good to be with you, Silas.
Yeah, I really want to talk about a sort of geographical location and how that interacts with the music as such. Like, I'm mindful the cover is South London from above. I'm living in South London right now, so I like to tell people there are places to listen to albums. Just like someone might say, listen to Illmatic when you walk through Brooklyn. I feel like listen to, late at night or on the night bus, listen to Burial. Can you tell me a little bit about this, I guess, the sort of geographical landscape of London at the time and how that is explored in Burial's album?
And so there was this heightened awareness of the urban landscape and how it was changing. That might have distantly filtered into it, but I think it's just he lived in South London. And there are so many, night bus is a very evocative word to a Londoner because it makes you think of going out to a rave or a club, and then, not everyone can afford to get a cab, so you take the night bus. And probably, if you can't afford to get a cab, you probably live in zone 3 or 4 even. So a night bus is like an epic journey through the city, and it's kind of melancholy because you're leaving this exciting space of the club and all the energy, but there's a beauty to it and a poignancy, and you're seeing the city pretty deserted at night, and the twinkling lights, especially if you're on the top deck of the night bus. There's all kinds of people on the bus with you, people falling asleep, there are night workers as well, it's not just clubbers and ravers going back. So it's a sort of, the night bus is like a sort of a tremendously romantic metaphor that has sadness and beauty woven into it, I think.
Rinse, London, FM and DAB.
He references, there's Southern Comfort is one of the best tracks on the album. There's a record he did previously that called South London Boroughs. It's very much like, he's speaking as someone, I can't remember exactly where he lived, but it's like sort of Wandsworth.
Clapham Junction, I think, or Clapham, yeah.
Yeah, well, so Southwest London. I used to live in Streatham and West Norwood and then Brixton. So that's, when I heard that and I read that was part, I saw the titles and I was like, oh, it flashed me right back into, memories of that time, going home at night from gigs and things, and the strangely beautiful bleakness of a lot of South London and this sort of sense of being in a hinterland. And there are parts of it that are quite hard to get to. You had to do the overland train, to some of the places I lived, it was an epic journey just to get home. Funny thing, I think with Burial's music, I'm often reminded of the Beatles' Eleanor Rigby and that line about all the lonely people. It's very much about the desolation of a city, a huge city, and feeling lost in it, but also the magic that can occur and the strangers. There's a sort of, he often would talk about, strange energies or seeing someone who looks like they might be an angel or something like that, slightly spooky experiences in a city at night.
I always wondered how Burial could be so inside the scene, yet have his music offer something so different. Here's Blackdown again.
I touched on him before, like, I only remember him coming to DMZ once. I don't remember him at Forward. And I do remember calling him from the dance floor a few times at Forward when Code9 was playing his tunes and leaving him answer phone message so he could hear what it was like. But to my knowledge, he didn't come to Forward. So why this matters is, Forward at Plastic People was built around this phenomenal sound system. And it was just physical. And if your tracks weren't well mastered or didn't have like really well shaped engineers, you got shown up. What made dubstep is this arms race for not only for like even bigger, like more impact and drops or impressive stuff, amongst other things, right? Because he's not part of that, it means he's not engineering his stuff for this immense bass weight impact stuff, which I love. It's brilliant, but it's just not doing it. So that gives his stuff a sonic kind of liveness. A lot of stuff like Lothar's best work generates this kind of flight or fight response. Like the bass drops and mud are just so intense that they're like overwhelming. And I don't think Burial is aiming at that same dynamic. Some of it is much more groove-led, and groove is the opposite of drop, right? You either build to a moment and you like cause a massive dynamic range change, or you build this groove. And I think, you know, because he's rooted in LV, which is rooted in garage. The other thing not to conflate with that, though, is his unbelievable ability to find melodic, emotional patterns.
Rinse, London, FM and DAB.
Drop.
You Hurt Me by Burial. Most of the tracks you'll hear on the show today are taken from the album Burial, like this one. You're listening to myself, Eclecticist, right here on Rinse, celebrating 20 years of Burial.
My love, my love, my love.
Anyway, me and him, we're from different ancient tribes. Now, we're both almost extinct. But sometimes, you gotta stick with the ancient ways. Old school ways. Now you understand me?
I'm really interested in the term hauntology. It's a term you've used a lot, and it's a term which often surrounds sort of Burial's approach to making music. Can you explain to us the idea behind hauntology?
Yeah, hauntology is this word. It actually is from philosophy. This philosopher Jacques Derrida, but it was kind of heisted by some music writers, music bloggers, like myself, Mark Fisher. A bunch of people kind of felt like it kind of tapped into something. There was a bunch of music being made exactly the same time as, grime going overground and dubstep rising. A sort of parallel action where it was more like home listening music. It was spooky. It kind of foregrounded the sound of the crackle of vinyl and the hiss of tape, these sort of old analog media. But the main thing was it had these sort of feeling and themes of spookiness, sort of vocal samples that were eerie and kind of blurry and shrouded in mist, and a sort of melancholy ache, a kind of elegiac ache of evoking, sort of the idea of a lost future.
Now, we're both almost extinct. But sometimes,
My love,
you gotta stick with the ancient ways.
my love, my love.
Now you understand me?
My love, my love.
It's so fascinating we're talking about this now, because even listening back to it now, I personally hear the sort of PlayStation game samples. I hear the pirate radio. It sort of takes me back to tuning a radio, which I guess doesn't really happen for young people anymore. We don't sort of tune radios and hear that hiss between stations, or even in a sort of pirate radio context, that hiss when we found a station but the signal isn't even that strong. And I feel like this album, I don't want to speak on behalf of Burial, but it feels like there's a purposeful hiss and fuzz in the creation of the music, stylistically, to sort of emulate those pirate radio feelings or vinyl crackle or Metal Gear Solid sample.
Yeah. I mean, there's a track called Pirates, and I think that's very much an aesthetic he's going for. There's this romance of sort of interlopers in the FM dial spectrum, where all the official commercial stations and the BBC and whatever, they're all on there. Then these rebel voices poke through, and you would be rapt. I would be trying to catch the signal of Don FM or Function FM, one of these sort of touchdown, these sort of legendary pirates. Yeah, I think there's a real romance to that sort of the signal that doesn't quite come through. You're chasing it. You're trying to lock on, and then you lock on, and it's just this electrifying feeling of this amazing music. A feeling like you're part of an underground.
My love,
Rinse 106.8 FM.
A lot of what ontology was to do with the equivalence between the idea of ghosts and the idea of a memory as a sort of internal ghost to you, and something that, is indistinct, and it fades a bit in your memory, but it can also be unsettling or beautiful in a sort of poignant way. And so samples can have the same thing. Samples are like cultural memories that are sort of floating in the music, and they carry with them all these evocations and echoes of other times. So in Bero's music, there are these echoes of reggae and sound system culture. There's echoes of jungle, which he didn't live through, but he heard about through his older brother. And then there's sort of a kind of echoey, ghostly version of UK garage, two-step rhythms, that kind of UK garage, but with the social aspect taken away. It's kind of lonely garage, a deserted dance floor.
There's something about listening to it in the context of everything that was around it, and it's so like standing out so much. And it's for me personally, this is like a personal one, like the referencing of R&B vocals is something that's just was so familiar to me growing up listening to sort of hip-hop and R&B and jungle
and
garage, of course. Yeah. But the way he does it, he brings out like, I don't know, a neo vocal that the original song isn't even that sort of emotionally moving, but the way it's pitched up and then reverbed out just gives the music so much more emotion. It's incredible. Yeah.
Exactly. That is if I was to name like point to one thing that really explains why Bero got so much bigger than everybody else on average, I think it's his spectacular ability to generate emotion, and particularly warm emotion. I think flight or fight responses is a form of emotion, but lots of people have worked out the engineering dynamics of how to create that like drop response. But it's much harder, especially in communities that don't have a lot of natural songwriters, to understand how to create this sense of emotion of like love or intimacy or a wistfulness or nostalgia or pensiveness and a lot of these emotions that are different from like the flight or fight response was like, oh my god, a bomb's gone off, start running, which is kind of what drop bass dynamic dubstep does really, really well.
Rinse 106.8 FM.
Victims themselves are close encounters. Desperate abductors, constructors become infected, vexed by an alien virus, alien so viral. Living spaceships, creatures covered, covered in writhing tentacles, stimulating the audio nerve directly when one conflicts with me. Hallucinating senses, individually, insidiously, are in any combination, rhythmically. Shifting gears, focus upon intensity. We big people are talking about a try to off with our mind clarity. Mind starts slipping into familiar tracks, bending, warping, interfering with the facts. Sensory language leaves us with no habit for lying. We are hostile aliens, immune from dying. Electrochemical stimulation. The sensations you feel is entirely real. All that we share is a struggle for silence. When I would arms house business, no shooting, no violence. Sensory language to snake like a limb. Flexible, versatile, curious like twins. Transparent in the way that it moves, with sufficient memory to cut clean through you. Themselves of a close encounter, desperate abductors, constructors becoming infected, vexed by an alien virus, so alien, so viral. the fox. Sensory language leaves us with no habit for lying. We are hostile aliens, immune from dying.
Sitting here 20 years since the release of this album, and I'm really interested to hear your opinion on if you think Burial captured like a very specific, maybe like fleeting moods of sort of mid-noughties Britain or London in particular, or do you think this album and Burial shifted people's approach to making music in this sort of hauntology style, emotionally driven dark music is the default mood now of the mid 2020s?
I think there's definitely like a mid 2000s social political backdrop to it, which is there had been all that excitement when New Labour came in at the end of 18 years of Tory government, but then in the end, by the mid 2000s, the shine has really gone off New Labour. People's lives are significantly better. There's a lot of things like student debt is making people like, you know, and they're leaving university and don't necessarily have jobs to go to. They're beginning to do like, you know, endless internships. Employment's not doing that great. Wages are not doing that great. And there's also a sense that the city, you know, if you look at the titles of this album, like Wounder or Broken Home, there's the beginnings of this burial aesthetic that he would of titles that and that evoke a frame social fabric, you know, homelessness. You know, he has later tracks like Rough Sleeper, you know, homelessness, people lost in the city, people doing really shitty jobs. Precarious work is a thing that's come through, where your work patterns are flexibilized, and you don't know how much work you get in any week, and you're constantly on call. And then there's this very significant event which apparently changed the whole direction of his music, which is 7/7 2005, the terrorist attacks on public transport. You saw the pictures of the dead and the wounded, and they were like very multicultural, like a portrait of London, all the greatness of London multiculture. It almost felt like, as much as it was an attack on Britain and London, it was like an attack almost on that idea of people getting on and living together. And he was very affected by that, and apparently he wandered around the city on foot that day and sort of soaked up. I think he's got like a tremendously attuned sensitivity to pain and anguish. You know, you see lost people in the city, and they would feed into the titles you give tracks. You know, Wounder, Gutted. You know, they're all tracks of pain, or they're like titles that are kind of like spiritual and reaching out for something. You know, like prayer. You know, he sort of captured something about London at that time. There's beauty and there's sadness. That's the thing he taps into. It's sort of specific to that time, but also enduring and perennial.
Whose fault's no one? No one, and you know, whose fault's no one, fault? No one but myself. Whose fault? No one but myself. Whose fault? No one but myself. And you know. Whose fault? No one but myself. Whose fault? No one but myself. Whose fault? No one but myself.
Rinse 106.8 FM.
This one always reminded me of Massive Attack's Teardrop. Trip hop. 20 years on, and I feel this album still has huge importance even to those who may not have grown up with the surrounding sounds or culture. I wondered if my guests shared that same sentiment. Let's make up a person. They're 19 years old. They're a student, they're really passionate about art and music, but they have all the fears of the world, and the sort of political landscape of Britain is happening around them. And they say to you, someone's told me to listen to this Burial album. Why should I listen to it? What would you say?
I recommend listening to Burial because I think it's a very powerful and sort of beautiful set of music that roots you in a time and a place. Specifically, it feels like London, South London, and of that era, like 20 years ago. And yet it's also, he's referencing a heritage, stuff that's already old then, and old but wonderful. You know, like the peak era of jungle and drum and bass in the mid-90s, or the heights of two-step in the late 90s. He's baked all that into. So he's kind of almost like hinting at taking you back to that already, even though that in itself, we're further from the album to now than we were from that album to when the peak of, say, Metalheads, or, you know, the peak of Twice as Nice or whatever. So you can feel all those things in what he's doing. If you've not heard anything like it, it'll be able to open you to that music and then discover all the interesting influences that he's got and the people that inspired him. Or those themselves are all really wonderful producers too.
I think it's music, you know, there's that sort of funny thing where people listen to sad music, and often it's something like The Cure or Radiohead or Joy Division. Listen to sad music and you think, well, if you're miserable, why would you do that? It would only make you feel worse. But it doesn't actually. It makes you feel less alone. It makes you, always gives you access to your feelings. It opens them up in a way. And so I had this phrase I came up with when I was writing about burial, about untrue. And I said, like, that music hurts you in valuable ways. I think in an odd way, sad, painful music, sorrowful music is actually therapy. You feel understood by the music. It kind of helps to heal you in some way, or at least comfort you. You know, a lot of music that is ostensibly miserable actually has the opposite effect on the listener, and makes them feel understood and comforted in some way. There's the solace of sadness in a paradoxical way, and everyone has their individual sadnesses, but there's a lot of sadnesses that are collective, especially with what's going on in the world now. We're all roiled with the same anxiety and apprehension and disgust and feeling that it's all out of control. And so music that sort of somehow taps into those feelings, social anxiety and social anguish, it's very valuable. I mean, it helps you make it through the night, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Simon. And thank you, Blackdown. You've been listening to myself, Eclecticist, right here on Rinse with you every Wednesday. On this occasion, we've celebrated 20 years since the release of the mighty album Burial by Burial.
I went into the bathroom to get some aspirin, and I happened to look in the mirror, and I swear to God, I see something I can't describe.